Ho, ho, ho! Is this thing on? Mic check. One sleigh, two sleigh. That's right. I've got a podcast now. Stories, jokes, and some serious North Pole nonsense. Santa Has a Podcast is out now at santahasapodcast.com. Ho, ho, ho!
Support American jobs while standing up for your values. OldGloryDepot.com brings you conservative pride on premium, made-in-USA gear. Don't settle. Wear your patriotism proudly. Visit OldGloryDepot.com today.
I say this every election cycle, and I'll say it again. The 2024 political field was intense, so don't get left behind in 2025. If you're running for office, the first thing on your to-do list should be securing your name on the web. With a yourname.vote domain from GoDaddy.com, you'll stand out and make your mark. Don't wait. Get yours today.
Welcome to another episode of Breaking Battlegrounds with yours, Chuck Warren. I'm Sam Stone. Our first guest up today, Josh Hammer, is the senior editor-at-large of Newsweek and the host of the Josh Hammer Show podcast. He is also the author of Israel and Civilization, The Fate of the Jewish Nation and the Destiny of the West, and a friend of the program. Josh Hammer, welcome back.
It's a pleasure to be back. Thanks so much.
So, Josh, the first question I want to ask you, it's a little bit out of left field. I did not have my bingo card, this dispute the United States is having with Canada, and it seems to be a personal thing.
Like 60% of Canadians polled think we're about to invade them.
Yeah, I mean, why do you think we're there?
Well, I mean, it's kind of thing that you on the one hand you kind of want to just laugh at it. I mean,
yeah,
kind of just the ridiculous spectacle of it all. On the other hand, look, I mean. The United States and Canada are very similar in many ways, but we definitely have our differences.
Sure.
Canada is substantially further to the left than the United States in virtually every way that you can possibly measure that. I think that Donald Trump and his administration in particular are probably deeply upset at the way that Canada, especially under Justin Trudeau, just totally opened their borders to third world immigration. And this is not just a Canadian issue. When you have all sorts of terrible actors from the broader Islamic world and beyond that are making it to Canada, a lot of that ends up trickling into the United States. I mean, we focus usually for good reason on the southern border, but there's been any number of stories in recent years of infiltrations happening at the northern border as well. So that's a bit of a microcosm. I would say this, I suppose, which is I would ease up on the Canada stuff.
Yes.
I'm personally a lot more passionate about the Greenland issue. I think the president's basically right on Greenland, and I'm pretty much entirely supportive of his effort to try to acquire it, to try to get unmitigated access. Whatever he decides is ultimately the best possible deal he can get there. So if I were whispering in his ear, I would say, Mr. President, maybe it's time to kind of drop it with the Canada thing. I mean, we don't like Mark Carney. We definitely didn't like Justin Trudeau. It's also probably true, or at least it's possible, that if Trump had gone a little less hard on Canada back in January, February, right out of the gate, it's entirely possible that we might have avoided Prime Minister Mark Carney, to be honest with you. The Conservative Party, the Tories there in Canada, were actually leading in the polls around that time. The margin differed on the poll, but that was seen as essentially a backlash to the terrible Prime Minister tenure of Justin Trudeau. And from my perspective, I do think that Trump needling them a little too aggressively helped, unfortunately, get us to where we are with Prime Minister Carney. So I would ease up on that. I mean, we have our differences with our northerly neighbors, but there are certainly, I think, more important things to focus on.
I agree.
Josh, expand a little bit on why Trump is right about Greenland, because I don't think a lot of people really understand the strategic issues here. You know, the press frames it as just more Trump belligerence, but if you actually look at a navigation map of the world, it makes a lot more sense.
So the first thing to note is that the United States has a very long history, actually, of expressing interest in possibly acquiring Greenland and potentially even taking some baby steps to act on that. So it was actually William Seward, who was Abraham Lincoln's Secretary of State, and then he became Andrew Johnson's Secretary of State. In 1867, the same year that Seward ends up finalizing his plan to purchase Alaska, he at that time was exploring the possibility of the U.S. acquiring Greenland as well, because he saw it even back then, 160-ish years ago, as being in the American national interest. And in 1946, 1 year after the end of World War II, Harry Truman, so this is the beginning of the Cold War, right? By definition, World War II ends, 1945. The Germans and Japanese surrender. So the very next year, 1946, as the Stalinist threat in the Kremlin takes off and the Cold War gets underway, Harry Truman literally makes an offer. His administration makes a $100 million offer in gold bullion to Denmark to acquire Greenland. At that time, Harry Truman argued that Greenland was, quote, indispensable to the safety of the United States. And, another reason why this is totally not crazy, I kind of state the obvious, the U.S. has a very long history of territorial acquisitions.
Yes.
I mean, everywhere, anything from the Louisiana Purchase to the Gadsden Purchase there in your guys' neck of the woods in the southwestern U.S., and on we go. In fact, a pretty major territorial acquisition that we purchased about a century ago in 1917, we purchased what is now known as the U.S. Virgin Islands from Denmark. It was previously known as the Danish West Indies. So Greenland, especially given the inroads that Russia and China are making in the Arctic, they're bulking up on their icebreaker ships. It's a very strategic part of the world by definition. It's where a lot of the world meets. Greenland additionally has all sorts of precious rare earth minerals that are important for semiconductors, chips, a lot of the 21st century computing that would only be further endangered if China were to swoop in and take Taiwan with their semiconductor capacities as well. So you kind of add the cherry on top, which is the fact that Denmark barely controls Greenland day to day. They do subsidize they do subsidize every year, but NATO really essentially has de facto day-to-day control of Greenland. Well, who's the bulk of NATO? Well, that's the United States of America. So I think that Donald Trump is essentially entirely justified and correct in what he's doing there. I don't know exactly where this is going to land. I'm not sure that's going to become the next Puerto Rico necessarily, but even if we get unmitigated access there, that's probably better than the status quo ante.
Well, I think most people have failed to even look up a map of where Greenland's at. I mean, it's directly due north of the United States.
Well,
it really is a gateway to the Arctic.
Yeah, but so this is actually one of the tricks that I was kind of alluding to here. If you look at the map that kids have seen on the wall,
it's to the right.
The whole thing is skewed.
It gets its globe.
You don't understand how vital that is as a protection from Russia and China and potentially missile shield and all that kind of thing also.
Let's talk quickly about Ukraine. There's been some, they're in Dubai, I believe, having negotiations. If we have you on this time next year, where do you think we're at on the Russia-Ukraine crisis war?
Man, that's a good question. I asked a friend of mine, Rebecca Heinrich of the Hudson Institute. I asked Rebecca this. She's something of a missile defense foreign policy expert. I asked her this exact same question on my own show, the Josh Hammer Show, maybe about a month ago or so. And I was really hoping for a good answer. I was like, Rebecca, give me the good news for this. This war is going to be over. And unfortunately, she had the same instinct that I share too, which is we're probably going to keep on doing this. I hope I'm wrong. I genuinely hope. Indeed, I pray that I'm wrong, because the innocent carnage is. It's catastrophic. It's utterly catastrophic.
I would be more surprised if the fighting ends in the next 12 months than if it continues for the next 12 years. I mean, that's
black pill if I ever heard one, but you're not necessarily wrong. I mean, 12 years is a long time, but I just don't see what the agreement looks like. I mean, there's still massive difference between Zelensky and Putin there. And the Trump administration, to their great credit, they've tried really hard. They've invested a lot of political capital in getting this done. He's got a lot of other peace deals done, but this is just the one that they can't get there. Again, I really hope that I'm wrong, but I'm just not necessarily seeing it at this time.
Well, here's the other part about this that I think people do not give Donald Trump and Marco Rubio enough credit for. If we were really, truly a cold, calculated country, and we all recognize Russia is a threat, people who think they're not, they could be a friend, I think that's foolish. But if we're really cold and calculated, we would just say, Ukraine, we're going to give you $50, $75 billion of military equipment, and you just keep killing Russians. And that's not what we want. And so it seems like Trump's just saying, I want to stop bloodshed. And some NATO people don't. But then at the same time, I look at Zelensky. If we were invading the United States, would I be willing to give up 20%? I mean, that's my land. That's the problem.
Are we including California, Chuck?
Yeah. But you know what I mean? So I understand Zelensky's position on this to a great degree, but I think people do not. I think people always try to make Donald Trump seem like a monster, and he's really trying to stop the bloodshed. Because if you're a cold, calculated person, say, no, just keep giving Ukraine money. They're doing the dirty work for the rest of us. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, look, I mean, Trump is obviously not the Manchurian Putin candidate that people tend to think he is. I mean, that's kind of the first obvious thing that ought to be stipulated here. I mean, he's had his ups and downs with Zelensky on a personal level, but he has continued to support Ukraine, not just morally, but at times he has actually been the very first to encourage Ukraine to start firing into Russian territory,
right.
which is a very hawkish position, to actually use American or NATO weaponry inside Russian territory. That's definitely opposed by, let's call it, the more isolationist wing of the MAGA coalition, to put it mildly there. So Trump is certainly not in Putin's puppet. I think he shrewdly understands here that there are two sides. One is clearly more evil than the other. This is Putin's war. We can talk about the factors that led him to invade there, but fundamentally he made the call to invade here. This is his war. This is his bloodshed. This is his carnage. But Zelensky is not exactly a paragon of Western Jeffersonian democracy, is he? He's a profoundly corrupt figure. And the very basic point that I've been making, for almost 4 years now, since this thing got underway, is that while it is in the American national interest to root for Ukraine to prevail insofar as we want an independent Ukraine and not another Russian puppet state similar to Belarus to Ukraine, nor Belarus under the dictator Lukashenko is basically just a Putin puppet. We don't want that. We'd rather Zelensky and Ukraine remain independent. On the other hand, the more nuanced point that I've been making is that I don't particularly care exactly where that border is drawn in these linguistically, ethnically divided towns in eastern Ukraine on the Crimea. Surely they can sort that out amongst themselves. So this is where Zelensky's "we're going to fight to retain every square inch" adamant Ukrainian nationalist position. He's entirely justified to do that from his perspective. But my point has been that perspective is not necessarily the exact same as the American perspective. I think Donald Trump intuits that very nicely as well.
Let's talk about quickly here. So the U.S. murder rate hits the lowest level since 1900. Of course, the press is just sort of saying, well, it was going down when Trump came in office and so forth. If you're in the Trump administration handling communications, how would you handle this? Because this is a big deal. It really is a big deal. I mean, I'd be like $100 million on TV the next 3 weeks on this. It's a big deal.
Oh, yeah, it is. It is absolutely a massive deal. I mean, the stat I think I saw was that this could potentially be the lowest national homicide rate in 125 years since the year 1900. I mean, around the time that William McKinley was passing off the baton to Teddy Roosevelt. I mean, my goodness gracious. I mean, that's quite a statistic. And you combine that with the fact that the most recent GDP quarterly growth number that we just saw is 4.4%. That's the fastest we've had quarterly growth in at least 2.5 years as well. Objectively speaking, based on all the available objective metrics that we have, the administration is really doing quite well, which does call into question, to your point, why there are so many people who tell pollsters that they're just not feeling it, that they're feeling this affordability, cost of living pinch. Part of that is this information operation. A bit of it is kind of a hoax, to be honest with you, from the corporate media. They just talk all day about this. They try to gin up fears there. But it's tough. I mean, this is kind of the $1 million question between now and November is how to demonstrate the objective numbers and to make people actually understand that and appreciate that. I guess my one bit of advice would be more softer messaging. So President Trump had that White House primetime address. I don't know, when was that? A month ago, give or take, a few weeks ago, whenever that was there. And it came across as slightly lecturing, and I didn't love the vibe, to be honest with you. It kind of reminds me of Joe Biden getting angry and saying, the economy is great, what are you talking about? That's not my style. I prefer kind of soft messaging. Right. Show the people, don't necessarily lecture at them.
100%. We're coming back with more from Josh Hammer here in just a moment, folks. Stay tuned. Breaking Battlegrounds, we'll be right back.
All right, imagine this. You're running for president. Yes, president. What's the first thing you need? Well, besides the $1 million fundraising, you need to secure your web domain. You need your name, .vote. Easy to remember, straight to the point, and a direct link to your campaign. No, but seriously, whether you're getting out to vote or convincing people that yes, you can fix the potholes on Main Street, a .vote domain helps you stand out. It's not just a website, it's a call to action. Head over to GoDaddy.com or Name.com, type in your name, .vote, and boom, you're ready to make a lasting impact. Get started today with your .vote web address.
All right, welcome back to Breaking Battlegrounds with yours, Chuck and Sam. On the line with us and continuing on, Josh Hammer. Follow him on X at Josh_Hammer. He is the host of the Josh Hammer Show and senior editor at large of Newsweek.
So, Josh, tell folks about the new Josh Hammer Show on the Salem News Channel. Tell us a little bit about it. How do they find it?
Yeah, you bet. So the show launched in its most incipient version about 4 years ago, but we signed this partnership with Salem Media just this past October launch, so it's available everywhere you get your podcasts via the Salem Podcast Network, but it's also on video, both on YouTube and Newsweek's YouTube page. So there's this interesting partnership we have between Newsweek and Salem for the show. So you can find it on YouTube at Newsweek's page, but also online at the Salem News Channel as well. So you can watch the video show every day, Monday through Friday, every day online on demand, salemnewschannel.com. Also 10 p.m. on the actual network on Salem News Channels, whether it's on Samsung TV Plus, Roku, and various other ways to get OTT television. The show will be on there as well. It's a lot of fun. It's 42 minutes every day. We hit all the issues, domestic, foreign, legal, cultural, political. I call it like it is. I mean, look, I only started doing this every day fairly recently. I didn't realize quite how fun it is to rant into a microphone. It's pretty cathartic, to be honest with you. So
it is.
I'm having a great time, to be honest with you.
What's been the challenge of doing it every day? That's one thing Chuck and I have talked about a few times, but we've never quite taken that leap.
You know, there are some days where the nature of the news cycle is just inherently a little slower, right? And you're kind of just thinking exactly how you want to formulate the show. Look, I mean, for me personally, there are so many things in my background that I can always lean into and try to kind of suss out certain stories, whether it's my legal background, whether it's my status as an Orthodox Jew. I can always kind of talk about the Bible and things like that as well there. So there's always kind of evergreen stuff to fall back on. But certainly when the news cycle is super, super slow, it's like the August recess, right? I mean, when Congress is out for a whole month for the August recess, I mean, sometimes you got to go deep down a little further to find what to talk about. Sure. But thankfully, that's an issue less often than I thought it would be.
All right, let's talk about your legal background for a minute. We have two Supreme Court justices who are past Social Security retirement age. You have Thomas and Alito. Should they resign this summer so Trump can appoint younger conservatives to the bench while he has a majority in the Senate, or just let him ride it out?
It's a great question, and my basic stance on this is as follows. I think that Clarence Thomas and Sam Alito are both heroes of the American Republic. Yes. I really do. I think Clarence Thomas is the single greatest living American, period, full stop, end of story, like 100%. In literally any walk of life. And Sam Alito happens to be my personal favorite justice as far as his actual jurisprudence is concerned. So I'm a deep admirer of both of these men. They are, by some orders of magnitude, the two greatest justices on the court today, with no disrespect to Trump's first-term nominees. So, look, I mean, far be it from me to advise one of these two guys that they should resign. I will say that about Justice Alito in particular, the rumor has been swirling for years that he is more likely to resign before Justice Thomas. A lot of folks, again, this is kind of just secondhand, third-hand stuff. A lot of folks have said that for a while, Justice Alito didn't necessarily seem, frankly, super happy with his job. He's probably a little happier now that the conservative bloc seems to be winning more cases than they were. But that's the rumor. I think if one of them is going to resign, if I were to guess, it would more likely be Alito rather than Thomas. Having said that, I mean, again, I'm not going to tell Clarence Thomas to resign. Sure. That is simply not my place. But I mean, he is overweight. He I mean, just kind of looking at the actuarial tables, I mean, kind of thinking this through logically speaking, I mean, Republicans do have a Senate majority. This at this time, it's entirely possible they lose that come next January. So if you're trying to be strategic, I guess I will just say this. There are certainly less obvious times to resign if you're thinking about it. But if I were a betting man, if I were betting on one of them, I would bet on Alito resigning before Thomas.
Okay, and I think this is an issue you follow. If Alito resigns, who do you think the top three potential picks would be?
Well, I'm biased, but I think that the guy that I clerked for would be the single best pick, and that's Judge James C. Ho on the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Fifth Circuit. I was honored to be one of Judge Ho's very first four law clerks when he started that chambers back in 2018. He's an amazing American patriot. We're very much still in touch today. I simply think the world of him. There's really no other judge there's really not a single one who I can think of currently in the lower federal courts who more consistently does the absolute best, most principled, and I would add most aggressive thing possible given legal restraints in a given case or controversy. So he's the absolute best. To me, he's kind of the gold standard. I don't necessarily know if he will get it as far as kind of making a prediction. If Alito resigns, I think another judge to keep an eye on as possibly being one of the front runners would actually be Judge Ho's colleague on the Fifth Circuit, Judge Andy Oldham, for, among other reasons, the fact that Judge Oldham is actually himself an Alito clerk. Oldham clerked for Alito years ago, so there's kind of some symbolism in that sort of thing. Lots of other judges whose names have been floated for many years now as a possible pick. You have Judge Mulf Thapar on the Sixth Circuit. He sits in Kentucky. Judge Greg Katsas on the D.C. Circuit, although he might be kind of slightly aging out at this point there. But as far as who my personal druthers would be, as far as who the pick should be, you really could not do better than Judge James C. Ho, I think.
I kind of wonder, is there a justification with Roberts in particular, who seems to be very wary of political decisions? Would there be a justification for finding an attorney who is a U.S. senator or Congress member or someone with a political background who can kind of talk to the other conservative justices on that basis?
So the U.S. for a very long time had a very long history, actually, of tapping U.S. senators to be justices. This happened a lot in the first, call it 150, almost 200 years of the United States. It's only a fairly recent trend, actually, that we start looking more often to the courts and to the federal courts in particular to look for future justices. Elena Kagan, I guess, she was tapped. She was never a judge, right? She was actually the dean of Harvard Law School. So there still are some exceptions, but the trend definitely has shifted. Look, there are any number of senators who I think would be amazing justices. I think Ted Cruz would be amazing. I actually ghost wrote Ted Cruz's book on the Supreme Court in 2020. His book was called One Vote Away. Ghost wrote's a little embellishing because Senator Cruz worked extremely hard on that, but I helped him on that book. Let's put it that way. He has an incredible legal mind. Josh Hawley, another prolific lawyer. He would be a fantastic Supreme Court justice, in my estimation. I'm not sure if these guys want to, though, right? These are guys who were amazing lawyers, and they kind of gave that up to pursue politics. So that's kind of the big thing, is like, would they actually be interested in that? But certainly, at a bare minimum, I would encourage the White House to expand their options beyond the federal courts.
Okay. Josh Hammer, we have a minute left with you before we want you to tell folks how to follow you. Here's my question. What are the 2 or 3 things that you think need to happen the next 6 months for the Republicans to retain the House of Representatives and the U.S. Senate?
I think the biggest question is what we were talking about towards the end of our last segment, which is how do you message the fact that the economy is actually doing way better than people realize, that crime is at historic lows, that the border is the most secure in probably like a century or more. Objectively speaking, the country is doing quite well. And it's this constant just information war against the very powerful vestigial legacy forces of the American left. And I don't claim to have all the answers there, but activating all the foot soldiers and trying to message this again in not necessarily the hardest charging way possible. So look, I love Stephen Miller. I've known Stephen personally for years there. I actually adore him, honestly. But I'm not sure Stephen Miller is going to win over a ton of swing voters, right?
No. Yeah. Chuck has said it.
Nor does he care.
Chuck has said it all the time. Messaging is essential right now. We've got to Trump has to step up his game. Josh, how do folks follow you and stay in touch with your work?
Yeah, you bet. Thanks as always, guys. So I'm on X at Josh_Hammer. Instagram is Josh B. Hammer. My book, Israel and Civilization, The Fate of the Jewish Nation and the Destiny of the West. The Josh Hammer Show, available everywhere you get your podcasts, on YouTube at Newsweek's YouTube page, and also online anytime via the Salem News Channel.
Josh Hammer, look forward to having you back.
Old Glory Depot isn't just a website. It's a movement. Featuring unapologetically conservative shirts and gear, we're proud to deliver 100% American-made products. From premium materials to bold designs, every purchase supports American jobs and celebrates our country. Show your pride, support your values, and shop oldglorydepot.com, because patriotism never goes out of style.
Welcome back to Breaking Battlegrounds with your host, Chuck Warren. I'm Sam Stone. Our next guest up today, John Trobaugh, founder and managing partner of JLA Advisors. He is currently running for Congress in Arizona's Congressional District 1, where David Schweikert, longtime congressman, has decided to step out and enter the governor's race. John Trobaugh, welcome to the program.
Oh, thank you. It's nice to be here.
So what is your background?
My background. So I often joke with that. Call myself a recovering tech CEO. I was been in Arizona about 8 years now, and I still have a technology, media, telecom consulting firm on the side. But spent most of my career in software. In the last decade, in the defense industry, really working on the intersection of advanced defense innovation and software.
Very nice. So, how did you get into that? Like, what led you into that field?
Yeah. So I was 20 plus years in Silicon Valley, and not to age myself, but when the mobile internet was first invented, and then saw all the different trends and Android.
You're in a room full of people who have aged ourselves, you're safe here.
Yeah. So there's more gray hair than you realize, right? But my father actually worked for the CIA and was an officer in the CIA, and my grandfather and my family roots go back to Boeing. And so Boeing had bought a company out of Silicon Valley, which had been come up onto their radar because the software is being used by the Muslim Brotherhood in Egypt to identify dissidents. And they thought, wow, that's an interesting capability. And they bought this software company, and then they didn't know what to do with it. And then they happened to find me and said, hey, what do we do with this company? And so we turned it into a data analytics company, or first generation AI company, if you will, applying machine learning against telecommunications networks to identify bad guys in foreign countries, if you will, and worked with our allies. So that was my foray. It was hey, your family, you grew up as a Boeing kid, and your dad worked for the CIA, and you're a natural. You should come do this, right? So
That's fascinating. So what brought you to Arizona?
Well, we've always been in Arizona. I mean, I have 4 children. My wife's family's been here.
What's the oldest?
Oh, oldest is 24. Knock on wood,
and
is
the youngest?
13. So I have a big spread.
Yeah, you got a real spread.
Yeah. So I have 13-year-olds still in junior high, and I've got a special needs son who has his own schooling, and I've got a frat rat over at U of A who I say we will graduate. It may be 6 years, but we will get there, right?
Well, I mean, here's the good thing is the frats actually they're fine with you spending a couple extra years, but sooner or later they want that room back.
He's no different than any college athlete.
Yeah, and then then you have the older one who's always trying to be perfect, right? And he just graduated ASU and business degree, and he works in sales at Waste Management. So, but to your question, how did I come here? My wife's family has been down here 20 plus years, and so our kids grew up here over the summer, and their parents were just getting older, and we were in Northern California. I looked at my wife, and just the way things were changing politically and everything else, I'm like, we need to get out of here, and your grandparents are going to be on the payroll anyways, so let's put the kids with the family and
Smart move.
A good quality.
It's a good move when they're with their grandparents.
Absolutely.
I mean, studies show kids around their grandparents just have a more stable adulthood.
Yeah, that's fascinating. I hadn't seen that study, but I will say my wife she's from Nebraska, whole family. Her mother's one of 13, and so we have a big Midwestern family. And I think until our kids were maybe in their early teens, we never had a babysitter other than Granny the nanny. So we've been very fortunate.
We've got 2 minutes here before we end this segment. How has fatherhood changed you?
Oh, how does it change us all, right? You start to realize there's more important things in life. And
I had a friend the other day that was having a baby, and she was just saying, she's 36 or something, and she was saying, I just feel different. I said, well, you feel like you have to be an adult now. I mean, even when you're married, you don't feel it. But when you have a kid, you're like, oh my gosh, I got to grow up.
Yeah, you got to grow up. But I think it's definitely been the most fulfilling thing too, right?
Yeah.
It can be the most heartbreaking and the most fulfilling, but mostly fulfilling.
I have an autistic son as well.
Okay.
I don't think people realize how much mental concern you exert during the course of a day or week on the special needs children.
Yeah, and it's something that my son is also autistic, and yes, it is. You worry. That's probably my biggest worry, and it's like we used to say, okay, very protective, and now I'm like, I'm getting older, and I need to make sure that he can actually
he's taken care of,
that he can taken care of, and that he can function on his own, and he knows how to pay his rent and do his bills, and so it's the little things in life that take for granted. But I'm also very fortunate. My kids and my family are all very close, and his brothers take great care of him, and he actually got to go to prom at Arcadia High School with one of his older brothers took him to prom with his girlfriend, and so he actually got a prom
That's
experience.
awesome.
And
That's so great.
So I've been fortunate. I have older brothers that really take care of their little brother too.
That is fantastic. We're going to be coming back with more here in just a moment, John. We want to get into all of the various issues that you're running on. Obviously, it's a big step when you go to run for Congress for your first time out of the gate. So we're going to talk about all of that coming back. Breaking Battlegrounds, back in 1 moment.
Sam and I are always talking about being prepared, whether it's hurricanes in Florida, earthquakes in California, flooding in Arizona, or supply chain disruptions.
Exactly, Chuck. When pharmacies shut down, it does not matter how tough you are, you still need access to critical medicine.
That's why we trust Jace Medical. The Jace case comes with 5 life-saving antibiotics and key over-the-counter meds, so you're covered when things get disrupted.
And Jace goes beyond just the Jace case. They also offer first aid kits, daily prescriptions, and long-term nutrition with Jace Pantry. Don't wait for the next hurricane warning or natural disaster. Take control of your health and peace of mind today.
Visit jace.com and use code FUTURE at checkout for $10 off your order. That's FUTURE at JASE.com.
In today's digital world, standing out is more important than ever. Whether you're running for office, leading a cause, or hosting a vote for the cutest pet in town, you need a web domain that's simple, memorable, and action-oriented. You need a .vote web domain. It's clear, impactful, and establishes a lasting presence for your campaign. Don't wait. Head to GoDaddy.com or Name.com, type in your name.vote, and get started today. Because after all, every pet deserves a web address that's as special as they are.
Welcome back to Breaking Battlegrounds. We're continuing on now with John Trobaugh. He's a visionary business executive, worked with a number of companies, founder and managing partner of JLA Advisors, and he's running for Congress here in Arizona for Congressional District 1. John, what made you take this leap? I mean, you seem like you have a pretty good life. We're talking about this wonderful family you got. You got a lot of good things going on. You're volunteering for what I have sort of not jokingly said is maybe the worst job in America. That's certainly one of the toughest.
And folks, as Sam asked this question, John's just smiling.
Yeah. He's just grinning at this. So
It's just like,
whatever,
I'm doing it.
we've got to dig in
Sound
and
like my wife, right? It's like this is the conversation we have, right?
we got to dig in right now and make sure this man is sane. That's what this comes down to.
So the sanity check, why are you doing it?
Yeah. You know, it's just like as we were talking a few minutes ago about, family and children. And I've said to people it is as simple for me as the fact that we are at a crossroads as a nation. And then I think also the opportunity that we have in Arizona that we need leaders who have experience and who care to really step up. And for me, it's about my children. I mean, the idea of leaving behind so much debt on our children. I mean, can you imagine dying and giving your kid here's my credit card bill, right? I had a great life, but go ahead and pay it, right? I mean, I just can't get my head around that is one issue. I think for me, the other is specific to to Arizona in general, is that whether we realize it or not, and I've spent my whole career looking out over the next 10, 15 years over what's the next big technology trend, right? And we didn't talk also in my background, I was also a presidential fellow. I worked at the White House during Trump 1.0 on the original threat of China to the U.S. and our economy and technology and educating Congress on that. And I believe Arizona, we are the epicenter of a next generation economy for the nation. And if you look at the pieces and what's happening all around us with TSMC and there's a push for data centers and there's pros and cons to data centers, right? I always say controlled growth is good, but we sure as hell don't want skyscrapers everywhere around the place, right? And so Arizona, I always say, is like, look, we're not going to replace Silicon Valley, but we could be the Silicon Desert. And wouldn't it be nice to have a Silicon Desert that was at least neutral or more conservative? I mean, right now, Silicon Valley, this is one thing that's been fascinating when we talked about getting in this. I've literally had suppliers, technology companies that I reached out to. I wouldn't have thought anything. I mean, just my money's green, right? And they say, oh, you're conservative running for Congress? We won't talk to you. And I'm not going to say the companies. I was just shocked.
It's just insane.
It's insane.
Yeah.
It's like,
Michael Jordan said Republicans buy sneakers too.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes. And so, but I look at Arizona and I'm like, we are, if you look at Silicon Valley 75 years ago and, the growth of Intel and, the ecosystem that grew out around it, there's nothing to say that the same things will happen, right? If you just saw the other day, OpenAI and ASU, we're now moving up the stack. It's no longer just about chipset manufacturing and advanced. It's now moving into software.
Yeah.
And we have a huge STEM program in the state. So this state is golden. I mean, whether it's our junior college system, our universities, the manufacturing, we have everything that most states do not. And I just felt like right now, given my background as a former tech CEO and, understanding AI, understanding the threat of China in ways that most people will never understand, that I owe it to my community and my children to actually step into this.
So you bring up a good question I want to ask. So Sam and I both work in the private I work in the private sector. Sam's chief of staff in Maricopa County. He's worked in government, but he's been in the private sector a lot too. We always want outsiders to be in D.C.
Yeah.
Okay? Mm-hmm. But government is different than a business.
Oh, yeah.
So you have some great skills. How will you take – it's a twofold question. One, let's go you win, and you're there 8-10 years. I don't see you as a lifer. Okay, so you're 8-10 years, okay? What are the two things that after 8-10 years you can say, I had a successful tenure representing the people of Congressional District 1? And how will you take your skills yet be flexible with them? Because government is different. It's just, I mean, you're used to making decisions. And you're going to go out there, and one day you'll call Sam and I and say, I just threw my bottled water against the wall because I'm waiting on some idiot 28-year-old to draft a piece of legislation.
Oh, yeah.
So tell us that.
So I'll give you 3 parts to that answer. First, I'll share a story. So when I was a presidential innovation fellow, we, first time, was all excited. We're going to private tech. We're going to change the government.
Change the world. Change the world.
Woo, let's do it, right? And I was the first one to brought in to work on with defense and work with the Pentagon, right?
Right.
But the first project was, well, let's just build a double-sided, application marketplace so, people can buy simple applications like Evite from small businesses. And, because you have assistants inside of government, it's like they can't even send on an Evite for an event. So we build out this entire marketplace, cloud.gov, and we're so excited about it. And we're like, yes, this is going to save the government millions of dollars. And it's a one-click contract, and this is going to be great.
Super easy.
Super easy. And we're like, all right, it's done. It's great. And we say, all right, now we got to go tell everybody about it. And they say, well, wait a minute. You can't do that. I go, what do you mean we can't do that? We just spent 4 months building this out, and I can't go market it. They're like, well, no, you can't use taxpayer dollars to go travel around to the other agencies and actually educate them and market what it is you just did. So we just need to hope that organically that they find it. And if they do that, then we'll be able to save money. And I was like, jaw dropped to the floor. And so the insanity of DC doesn't surprise me, right? And
was that depressing when you realized that? It was your first time. Yeah. How did you? Oh my gosh, is this?
Yes,
you had something of a background with your dad.
I had a background
and
because
Boeing
the other
and all
part,
that.
I also grew up in Northern Virginia.
Right.
So I graduated high school, and I aged myself, right? But I graduated high school in Northern Virginia, and my grandfather was the former, Eddie Mai Jr. was the former number 2 at the RNC for many years. So I grew up around this without even realizing, that I just remember going to Grandpa Eddie's house and tables off the, elbows off the table, Mabel, and eat your soup right, and sit up straight, right? And so, but you're a fly on the wall, and you don't even realize how it shapes your life, right? So that was my first answer to your question. The second answer, where you talk about experience. So there's this thing in tech, and we often see it with young CEOs of great ideas. I'm going to go, turn the world on fire, right? And that's the beauty of this country, right? Is that you can do whatever you want. I always tell my children, it's like you are only ever limited by your own ambition, right?
Right.
But the downside of that is you might say, well, there's 20 different things I'm going to do. And that's called shiny pebble syndrome. Right? So I've been very clear about the fact that, no, I just want to go to DC, and if I can accomplish 2 to 6 things that dramatically impact Arizona and our economy and our future and our children, then I've been successful. I don't need to go boil the ocean.
So
right?
what are the two right now?
So the two right now, top of the one, I look at the White House has drafted AI legislation, right, or a draft AI framework. Not a lot of meat been put on those bones yet, right? We need to still, and there's a lot of debate about, where does the Fed draw the line and where do states draw the line and how do we make sure that we protect children and enable law enforcement. On the other hand, let's also make sure that let's call it what it is. Let's get rid of the bias, through internet communication and have some neutrality in how it is we talk about things, which we haven't seen over the last year. So I'm like, okay, well, as a software CEO, I absolutely understand how to develop the software and what's needed, and can sit there, congressionally and with all the business leaders within Silicon Valley and make sure that we have legislation that makes good sense and protects the country. The second thing that I can do is I'm going to understand where it is the opportunity is that we're going to take advantage of, or take advantage might not be the right word. How about if we say, look out for Arizona? I always say Arizona first, right? And so we all agree it's America first. That's not debatable. We have certain values as conservatives.
There's no shame in saying, if I'm going to represent Arizona, I'm going to put
Arizona
my constituents first.
Absolutely. Yeah. I want to make sure that we have things coming out of D.C. that we can commercialize and monetize and protect our citizens and grow our own economy, as opposed to D.C. just saying, hey, Arizona, you get this. And I'll give you an example. Manufacturing. It's great. We're bringing manufacturing onshoring again. Most people don't realize that the reindustrialization and everything that's happening right now was actually part of the national security doctrine in Trump 1.0. This didn't just all of a sudden pop up, right? This was known, right? So, okay, but here's the downside to advanced manufacturing. It's all about fewer people, not more. It's about robotics. It's about AI. It's not about, hey, I'm going to deploy X thousands of people on the assembly line and boxing chips. It's like, no, I've got people who are sweeping the floors, maybe looking for some of the computers. It's still a huge opportunity, but what makes it huge is all the other opportunity it brings around it. Construction jobs, high-paying construction jobs, data center, people to run data centers or work in those chipsets. So I think that, Arizona is it's going to evolve, and we're going to start to see some of the higher paying wages and the growth in our ecosystem. But that only happens if we understand what we want.
Right.
So that's the first point.
That's an excellent point. So, for example, we have, I think, 11 or 12 members of Congress who are doctors, legit doctors. We've had a few of them on the show, and we asked them during COVID, did anybody ask their opinion? And it was no.
Yeah,
which I found weird. I mean, one was on the board one was a part of Johns Hopkins, right? Seems like a guy who can ask about COVID stuff, right?
Yeah.
So you have this very unique skill set. I don't think there's anybody really else in Congress that has that skill set.
Well, yeah, please finish your question.
No, I mean, with your background. I'm not trying to butter you up.
No.
How do you go about? Because I think if you ask most people in your district, especially your district, is AI something we need to get a handle on? I think that number's going to be overwhelming. You have a highly educated district, right? So how do you go use that for a campaign point? Like, I'm the guy that can take the lead on us, so we don't let AI take over our life. Rather, we let it work for us.
Yeah, and AI is only one aspect, of my background.
Sure.
But I will also tell you, when you mentioned the Congress, there's been a few different doctors. How many conservative tech CEOs have ever gone to Congress?
I don't know any.
It's none. The answer is none.
Zero.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, you go hit my website. I actually have AI built into my website. You can hit the Ask John section. We built in an AI LLM model, and you can ask it conservative questions, and it gives you answers. And if you don't get the answer, then you can also email me direct, and I immediately get that, right? So we, are looking to make sure that we take advantage of technology. And also part of what I'm trying to do with my campaign is how do we, for lack of a better word, catch up to what Democrats have been doing for years, with technology and how they make use of technology. And I'm tired of that. I'm like, no, I'm coming out swinging against Democrats. I've the other, congressional candidates, I've met them, all nice people. I'm like, we're all in the family, right? Let's just win, right? But then to your point, to your question about how do I promote that, I don't talk of it in terms of just AI. I think of it in terms of Arizona first, our economy. How do we make sure that things are happening that benefit our economy? And the fact that I'm a CEO and can also wear, the hat of understanding a balanced budget, P&L, economic growth. I just see the world differently than a lot of
As you should.
congressional folks.
Chuck, I got to say, I think we should get John back on here because I want to dig into something there, and maybe you're uniquely able to do it. We only have about a minute left here, so I don't want to dig too far into this now. But how do we keep the longtime Arizonans who don't have those skills? How do we keep them up?
And you have 1 minute.
1 minute.
Right. Yeah. I'm throwing the
super quick answer.
Yeah.
Right? So we have one of the largest JUCO systems in the nation. We have the ability to retrain our workforce and retool them for the next generation economy in a way that nobody else in the country does. And it's also localized. So, and we see it with I think it's Workforce 48 with the ACA is manufacturing.
I got to do a little chest thumping and say when we were doing work in Oklahoma, they're the other state that's got a great JUCO system for this.
Yeah.
But Arizona and Oklahoma, it's standout. Yeah. 100%.
John, how do people follow you? Quickly.
Troboff4az.com.
Fantastic. John, we really appreciate having you on the program. Look forward to having you back here again in the future. I always like it when we can have these free-flowing discussions with congressional candidates and people running for office because it's not always the norm.
Yeah. Oh, okay. I would expect that's what we're supposed to do.
So do we. Folks, Breaking Battlegrounds will be back on the air next week, but make sure you stay tuned and get our podcast segment. You're not going to want to miss it. We've got some good laughs. We've got comedian Lou Perez. He recently had a piece that went viral that many people are following on police body cams. Kind of knew that one was coming. Breaking Battlegrounds back next week.
I say this every election cycle, and I'll say it again. The 2024 political field was intense, so don't get left behind in 2025. If you're running for office, the first thing on your to-do list should be securing your name on the web. With a yourname.vote domain from GoDaddy.com, you'll stand out and make your mark. Don't wait. Get yours today.
Ho, 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 ho. What do you get when you mix cocoa, candy canes, and strong Wi-Fi signals? You get a podcast. That's right, Santa has a podcast. I'm telling stories from the North Pole, sharing elf updates, and answering your questions. And yes, spilling some holiday secrets. It's festive, it's fun, and fueled entirely by cookies. Tune in wherever you get your podcast. It's Santa Has a Podcast. Just press play.
All right, welcome back to Breaking Battlegrounds. Our next guest, Lou Perez, comedian, producer, and author of That Joke Isn't Funny Anymore on the death and rebirth of comedy. You may have seen him on Goodfield, Fox News, Primetime One Nation with Brian Kilmeade, and Open to Debate. He recently went viral with a sketch bit on police body cams that I think almost any police officer could have predicted. Lou Perez, welcome to the program.
Thanks for having me.
So, when you did that piece, what was the origin of that piece? Because I want to, kind of that bit is I was involved at the city of Phoenix about 10 years ago when this debate first came up. And I remember the debate with all these activists raging, we have to have these body cams. They're going to show the police doing everything wrong. And the police were laughing their butts off.
Yeah, so I started off. I'm a comedian and a writer, so occasionally I get to dip my toe into actual journalism. And I started out as, believe it or not, as a fan of police body cam footage. It's become my favorite genre of entertainment that's out there. And you can go on YouTube right now, and there are just a ton of channels with millions of subscribers. And they're posting these really well-made, well-edited videos of everyday police encounters that are all filmed with body cams. And so I'm coming at this as a fan. I'm like, man, this is such entertaining stuff. And then I start looking at it, and I'm like, wow, this starts to kind of explain a lot about the situation where we are now. Because I remember back in 2012, 2014, especially when the call for police body cams was definitely the loudest. And after 10 years of police body cams being out there in the streets, I think that nothing has hurt the anti-cop movement more than the very body cams they demanded police officers wear. And I think a large part of that is, I think for the most part, most people have no idea about what police are encountering every single day that they go out on a shift. Now, I grew up as a kid in the 90s, so we had the show Cops, right? So we so we got to watch that show for a few decades, but not every encounter made its way into Cops, and there were commercial breaks and stuff like that. But now, with these YouTube channels in particular that focus on body cams, you get to see just how many people are willing to take, like, rolling through a stop sign, and they want to ramp that up to a felony. Like, they could have left with just like just a citation, a ticket, but they ramp it up and they escalate the situation. And you start watching enough of these videos and you're like, wow, man, the cops are dealing with like a whole segment of society that, I never want to be associated with.
I'll give away one of my great secrets as a inveterate leadfoot who gets pulled over with fair frequency, and I think Chuck can sympathize or whatever with this.
I agree. Sympathy.
I catch the cops when they're about to get to the car. I'll stop before they even get to the car. I've got my windows down and go, "Hi, officer, how are you today?" And it totally throws them.
Yeah, it's just something simple like that,
right? Because now you're wired as a human. You got to be like, I'm good. How are you?
I immediately just grab my driver's license with the insurance and just hold it outside the window, and they just start laughing. I mean, half the time they just, give me a warning, is they just like, okay, you know what you did. White, we think you're more of a libertarian bent, are you not?
Sure.
Yeah, you believe. Why do you think conservatives are so bad at humor? Because I think if we were better at it, we would be able to communicate better.
Well, I think one thing is conservatives aren't supposed to be good at humor, right?
Yeah,
like that's supposed to be a liberal thing,
right?
And I find it really funny when so many liberals are failing at being funny,
right.
So it's sort of like it's sort of like one of those situations where often conservatives get goofed on for not being funny by the very liberals who are finding themselves not funny anymore. But I think it has to do with a lot of like psychological dispositions and stuff like that. Trust me, I live in a town where there are a lot of men here who do men's work, a lot of plumbers,
right.
A lot of guys who put up sheetrock and stuff like that, and they make it a good living. They're providing for their families, and there's no risk whatsoever that they're going to humiliate themselves on stage, or there's no risk that they will never get paid for attempting comedy, So comedy is definitely, one of those things where it takes a particular kind of person who's willing, to take a chance, to take a risk for, little to no reward. I mean, the people who really break through and, make it, all the way, or at least even just start getting paid a little bit of money to do it. It's a tough gig. For sure.
Do you wherever you go anywhere throughout the course of the day, do you have a little notepad and a pen, or do you just do voice memos when you think of something that could be funny that you want to work on more? What's your process?
Yeah, it depends. Well, one of the things that I've been blessed and cursed with is this thing called X, which is formerly Twitter. So a lot of times, whatever thought pops into my head, I immediately broadcast it to billions of people out there, and that's probably not the best thing to do. I could probably use some editing on that front, but yeah, sometimes I'll go old school. I have notepads and that sort of thing, and I'm probably one of these people. I don't know if comedians are known to be like very organized, but there are notepads I have that are full that I haven't looked at in years, and it's like, well, why didn't I even take notes if I wasn't going to go over them?
Yeah, that's amazing.
You reminded me I need to go back and do some homework.
Yeah, make sure you give me credit for it. So we want to talk about your book, That Joke Isn't Funny Anymore. But before we start with that, tell people a little bit about your background. Tell us about Lou Perez.
Ooh, Lou Perez. Who is that guy?
Yeah.
I'm trying to find him again. It feels like such a long time since I met that boy.
Daily task.
Yeah. Well, I'm from New York originally. I'm the the son of a butcher from Argentina and a hairdresser from Queens. And
Was Spanish
I've
spoken
been-
in your
I-
home? Was Spanish spoken in your home growing up?
No, broken English. But my mom isn't Spanish. My mom is American, and my dad. I'm bilingual in that I speak English and I also speak my dad's version of English. So we've had fun. We've had fun over the years. So I went to NYU and I started doing sketch and improv comedy there, and after that, sort of graduated to the UCB Theater, which is a big, important indie theater in my life for sure, coming up as a comedian. And then I made the leap to doing stand up. It took me a long time to get the nerve to even get up on the stage and to do stand up. And looking back now, it's been I think a little over 20 years in total of doing this comedy thing.
And your book. Tell us about the book.
Yeah, my book, That Joke Isn't Funny Anymore, on the Death and Rebirth of Comedy. It came out a few years back, and a lot of the themes in it, I'm happy to say, are still evergreen when it comes to things like free speech, cancel culture, finding the funny, that sort of thing. And the book really gave me an opportunity to sort of look back at my career in comedy and kind of relive why I wanted to get into it in the first place, why I took the risk of getting into it, and seeing if we can kind of get back to, I think, like the glory days of comedy, where it was all about taking risks, putting yourself out there, and really going for it,
Just being funny. I mean,
just being funny.
Yeah. So as you were getting into this book, because I read through a part of it last night. I agree 100% with the kind of basic thesis behind it. I wonder, is there a rift between like the leftist celebrities and leftist comedians, where the comedians is there any pushback from them? Because sort of this woke leftist culture is just killing their careers. It's turning them into boring.
Well, late night's
drones.
Late night's been killed.
Yeah.
Yeah, late night's funny because it's like you would have like 4 or 5 shows and they all seem to have the same writers.
Yeah.
And it's like, how is that working? And it's interesting. Conan O'Brien talked about it during an interview fairly recently about how they really lost something when they just kept going after Trump, or saying, I hate Trump, I hate Trump. And it was funny hearing that, because I'm like, wait, I've been talking about that for 10 years.
Right.
And, but I'm happy that, a great, comedian like Conan O'Brien is coming around and talking about that. I think for a while, especially when Trump first came into office, people were kind of looking for any way to fight back, to push back against him. And if you're a comedian and you really want to fight back against Donald Trump, all you have are, jokes. Mm-hmm. But then what ends up happening is you end up just spewing the same jokes over and over and over again, and it gets really boring. It gets hacky, and that stinks for, I think, a lot of fans of comedy, because they start to see like, oh man, I'm not tuning into comedy anymore because I know what the punchlines are going to be. But I think it also opened up a lot of opportunities for comedians like myself to take on subject matter that nobody else would touch. And so I think no matter where you are, there's always going to be these sacred cows that are either fixed or imagined. And the fun part about being a comedian is being able to say like, ooh, I'm not supposed to talk about that. Let me see if there's a way for me to talk about that.
Yeah. How do people, so I take it you do gigs. How do people hire you if they want to hire you to do a show or something, or write for you or something like that? How do they contact you?
Yeah. Oh yeah, I am too easy to get in touch with.
There's no mystery. There's no mystery with you.
Yeah, exactly. Anybody could reach out to me on my various social media, whether it's my Substack or thelouperez.com. You can hit me up directly there. If you see me on the street, you want to throw a couple bucks in my pocket, I'm not above that. I will take that for sure.
So you prefer them throwing a couple of bucks than Rotten Tomatoes? That's what we're.
Although, yeah, I've had some times where I'm like, I wish they were throwing something at me right now.
Hey, I have a question for you. What do you think comedians are missing about Donald Trump that's funny? I mean, they just all say, Alec Baldwin ruined it on Saturday Night Live for him. I mean, it's just so, it's not funny. What do you think that he does that's so funny that people don't take advantage of as comedians?
Well, I think one of the things that is really necessary is to acknowledge how funny he is.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And I think it's one of those things where certain people don't want to admit that. Like, for example, during the last campaign, when there was that line thrown out, I forget who said it, but basically calling Trump supporters garbage people. And then Trump put on that neon vest, got in a garbage truck, which was on its own was funny. Him owning that was hilarious. But then he got up and he did like a really tight 5-minute stand-up set that killed, and it was off the cuff. And for me to watch that and to pretend that he didn't have chops, I would have to be insane. So I think the first step is kind of humbling yourself and imagining like, hey, you might live in a world where Donald Trump is actually funnier than you. And for those who aren't into comedy, for those people who hate Donald Trump, a lot of them should really take a step back and say, hey, you know what? You might actually be more unlikable than Donald Trump. As much as you don't like him, you might be the worst person to like cast aspersions onto this guy.
By the way,
Absolutely.
There is a very funny bit on Donald Trump on the Conan O'Brien podcast. It was probably 2 years ago. John Mayer did it. Look it up. And he did the imitation of Trump reading a teleprompter. And his comment was, he made your point. He thought Donald Trump was funny. He thought he would really have a career doing voiceover work if he hadn't been who he is. But go listen to him reading Donald Trump, because he's convinced Donald Trump never reads any speech. The first time he sees it's on a teleprompter. So he goes, yeah, that's right. Of course. T-Rexes have no arms. We all know this. Why are we talking about this anymore? Go listen to it. He does a very great job of it. And that's the first time I've heard somebody just find something funny about Donald Trump that wasn't like offensive or just totally political context. And when you listen to it, you're like, you're right. That's exactly how he reads a speech. It's like the first time, like, well, of course that's true. Why are we even talking about this anymore, right? So, anyway, John, Lou, anything else you want to talk about today?
Man, well, what's on my mind? I think I hope everybody's in the Northeast is bracing for. I think we have a blizzard coming up.
Right, that's going to kill everything.
They're bracing for a blizzard in the Northeast, and in the Southeast, they're bracing for 3 days of empty grocery stores and no blizzard.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So with that, I guess this is my time to say, you know what? Anybody, if you have money or provisions that you want to send to Lou Perez because you enjoyed me here, I will take canned food. I will take firewood. I will take whatever you guys got for me.
Fantastic. Lou Perez, thank you so much. Really appreciate having you on the program. Folks, follow him on X at Lou Perez. For Chuck, this is Sam, Breaking Battlegrounds. We'll be back next week.
So China just approved for Xi to be president for life, and Trump says, maybe we have to give that a shot someday.
Like, enough is enough. How do people ignore that?
I'm pretty sure he was joking.
Joking about being president for life.
Yeah. If you listen to the audio, everybody's laughing. They're clearly in on the joke.
Okay, I'm sorry. Do you like Donald Trump?
No, I think there's a lot wrong with the guy. It's just this happens not to be one of those things.
I cannot believe I work with a Trump supporter.
What?
Let's get out of here, Jenny.
I voted for Hillary.
Did you hear about this?
What did he do?
Donald Trump banned an entire religion.
What?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the Muslim ban, so I guess Trump is banning all Muslims from coming here.
And he's probably going to kick out the ones that are already here.
Actually, it's not a ban against all Muslims. The travel ban is against 7 Muslim-majority countries. Yeah, but unemployment's at 4.1%. Trump isn't shutting down Meals on Wheels. Only 3% of their budget comes from the federal program. No, Mom, I agree with what he said about Donald Trump. I just don't think it's appropriate to say it at Aretha Franklin's funeral.
Are you serious, Gary?
Oh, I don't agree with it. It's like, if you're so concerned about terrorism, then why isn't Saudi Arabia on the list too, right?
Why the are you defending Trump?
I'm not defending him. You guys are just misrepresenting him. Trump is not as bad as Hitler. Okay. Who put this here? And who took my lunch?
Actually, LGBT categories have never been on the census, so no, Trump isn't removing them.
How much are the Russians paying you, comrade?
Wait till he comes to our place of business and starts collecting our Muslims and getting rid of them too.
Hatem and Ali are American citizens.
And that makes it okay?
What? No.
Holy shit.
Oh my God.
I didn't know you were a white supremacist, Gary. You know, this isn't even our floor. Let's just get the off.
Look, he didn't fire Tillerson on Twitter. Tillerson already knew. Trump just leaked the information onto Twitter. Please, stop making me defend Donald Trump.
Where's your tiki torch, Pepe?
God damn it.
On the campaign, I called it the forgotten man and the forgotten woman. Well, you're not forgotten anymore.
Thank you, Gary, my biggest defender.
Hey, I'm Lou Perez with We the Internet TV. We're the channel that makes fun of everyone, including you. Yeah, you. I see you. You're next. And you'll never see it coming. Unless you subscribe to our channel, in which case you'll totally see it coming. Paul, Melissa, Dad,